picture this. You are about to hire a civil engineer to, design a suspension bridge in your city.
Right, a pretty high stakes hire.
Exactly. And they hand you a glowing resume, and it's backed by a degree from a university you have, well, literally never heard of.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
Right. So how do you know that piece of paper represents, like, a rigorous education? How do you know it isn't just a really expensive receipt for 4 years of partying?
You look for one specific word.
Accredited.
Exactly. Accredited.
But, I mean, who actually watches The Watchmen here? Today, we are stripping down the global accreditation machine. We're looking at this massive, largely invisible web of peer review that pretty much dictates the value of global education.
It really does.
And this is a special deep dive presented by Research Union Insights. We designed this specifically for you, the learner, to synthesize all these complex international systems into, well, a cohesive picture.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I feel like we all misunderstand this system. Oh, completely. It is a picture that completely contradicts how most people assume the system actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, people tend to view accreditation as this monolithic, top-down government mandate, like a faceless bureaucrat stamping a seal of approval on a university building.
Right, like a DMV for colleges.
Exactly. But when you look at the actual documentation from the major oversight bodies, like the Council for Higher Education Accreditation, which is CHEA in the U.S.
Okay, CHEA.
Or QAHE globally.
Yeah.
The reality is that this is primarily it's a voluntary, non-governmental, collaborative peer review process.
Wait, voluntary. That word voluntary is the part that immediately trips me up.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
Right, because if it's voluntary, why does any institution subject themselves to it? Like, let's get into the mechanics of what this actually looks like on the ground.
Sure.
Because I saw that ABET, and they are the heavyweight accreditor for applied science, computing, and engineering.
They are, yeah, a massive global presence.
They note in their materials that their process takes about 18 months from start to finish.
Right, 18 months.
But in the tech sector, curricula change every 6 months. If an audit takes almost 2 years, isn't the program completely outdated the exact second it gets approved?
Well, what's fascinating here is that is exactly why it is not an audit in the traditional financial sense.
Okay, what is it then?
It's a developmental life cycle. It's fundamentally aimed at continuous improvement rather than just taking a static snapshot in time.
So they aren't just checking boxes.
No, not at all. The 18-month timeline isn't just bureaucratic foot-dragging. I mean, it is the time required to execute a deeply thorough 3-step process.
3 steps. Okay, walk me through them.
Well, step 1 alone takes months. That's the self-study. The faculty and the administrators actually have to sit down with the accrediting agency's standards and, evaluate their own data.
So they grade themselves first.
Pretty much. And they aren't just filling out a quick questionnaire. They are aggregating years of student performance metrics, faculty research output, and even post-graduation employment data.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they compile it into this massive, heavily scrutinized internal report.
So they are essentially building the case for their own competence.
Yes, exactly. They are defining their mission and proving with their own hard data how they actually meet it.
Okay, so that's step 1.
Right. But step 2 is where the rubber really meets the road. That's the external evaluation.
Okay, the outsiders come in?
Yeah, the accrediting body sends a team of peer experts to the campus. And remember, these are not government inspectors.
Right.
They are professional peers, like academics from rival institutions or even working professionals from the industry who just volunteer their time.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like a restaurant health inspection, but not the kind where, a bureaucrat shows up with a clipboard looking for a code violation so they can shut your kitchen down.
Exactly. It's way more collaborative.
It's more like inviting a team of fellow Michelin star chefs into your kitchen. Like, they watch you prep, they taste your sauces, they look at how you source your ingredients.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Because their primary goal isn't punitive, right? It's to help you elevate your cooking to meet the highest standards of that shared profession.
That captures the collegial spirit of it perfectly, yeah. These peer reviewers are, they're conducting on-site interviews with the faculty.
Mm-hmm.
They pull random samples of graded student exams to actually verify the grading rigor.
Wait, they actually read the exams?
Oh, yeah. And they interview students directly to make sure the real environment matches that glowing self-study report they read in step 1.
They want to make sure the school isn't just lying on paper.
Exactly. They're hunting for discrepancies between what the administration claims and what the students actually experience day to day.
And then what's step 3?
Only after all of that does it move to step 3, which is the final commission decision. That's where a broader group reviews all this gathered evidence and makes a final judgment.
Okay, so knowing that this is a highly invasive 18-month process of, like, master chefs tearing apart your kitchen, what exactly are they reviewing?
That's the big question.
Because CHEA draws a really hard line between institutional accreditation and programmatic accreditation, and those sound totally different.
They are. It is a critical distinction, and it completely changes how you should look at a university's credentials.
Okay, lay it out for me.
So, institutional accreditation evaluates the entire school as a single operating entity.
The whole campus.
Right. The peer reviewers are looking at things like financial stability. Like, is the university actually solvent?
Right.
Is the campus governance structured ethically?
Yeah.
Are the student services, like the library or the financial aid offices, are they functioning effectively?
But, I mean, that doesn't tell me anything about the specific civil engineer I'm trying to hire.
No, it doesn't.
A university could have an incredibly wealthy endowment, state-of-the-art dorms, a perfectly solvent balance sheet, but their engineering department might be teaching, like, totally outdated physics.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that is exactly where programmatic accreditation comes in.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is laser focused on specialized high-stakes fields. Law, nursing, teaching, engineering.
The fields where you really need to know what you're doing.
Exactly. Bodies like ABET, or
Yeah.
India's National Board of Accreditation, the MBA, they adamantly state in their operating documents that they only accredit specific programs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do not accredit degrees, they don't accredit the institution as a whole, and they certainly don't accredit individuals.
Wait, let me push on that. Does that mean a highly prestigious, globally recognized university, let's say like a massive state school or an Ivy League, could be fully accredited at the institutional level, but have a specific pharmacy or computer science program that is totally unaccredited?
Absolutely, it happens frequently.
Wow.
Yeah, an institution might launch a brand new program that just hasn't yet met the rigorous criteria of the programmatic accreditor. Or, a historically strong department might just let its standards slip.
And then they lose it.
Right, they lose their specialized accreditation, even while the wider university remains in totally good standing.
That makes the stakes remarkably high for those individual departments.
Very high.
And the MBA in India, they seem to take this to an extreme because their rules dictate that a program must have at least 2 batches of students who have fully graduated before they can even apply for programmatic accreditation.
Yes, that is a very strict rule they have.
And furthermore, part-time programs are flat out rejected from consideration.
Completely excluded.
But doesn't that heavily penalize innovation? Like, if a school creates a cutting-edge AI engineering program, they have to operate in a gray zone for years, graduating 2 full cohorts before they can get that official stamp of approval.
It definitely does create friction for new programs, yeah. But you have to look at it from the perspective of consumer protection.
Okay, how so?
Well, the NBA's stance is that you simply cannot evaluate the efficacy of a program purely on its curriculum design. Because, a curriculum is just a theory.
Right, it's just a piece of paper.
Exactly. You have to evaluate the actual product of that program, which is the graduate. If you haven't graduated anyone yet, there's literally zero empirical data to prove your teaching methods actually work in the real world.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if you are forcing a school to wait until students graduate, you aren't just looking at the textbooks they bought. You are measuring something entirely different.
Yes. It is a seismic shift in educational philosophy. Historically, the global standard was this input process output model.
Right. The NBA materials detail this beautifully. Like, prior to 2009, they relied on this input model.
Yeah, the inputs.
They were essentially measuring resources. It was basically a vanity metric system, how many square feet of lab space does the department have? What is the annual budget? How many PhDs are on the faculty roster?
How many books are in the department library?
Right.
Yeah, they were measuring the ingredients, assuming the good ingredients automatically yield a good meal.
Which is crazy.
But we know from reality that is just not always true.
Right. It is like rating a gym by counting how many expensive treadmills they purchased rather than checking if any of the members are actually getting in shape.
That's a great analogy.
You could have a $50 million state-of-the-art facility, but if your trainers are terrible and nobody's building muscle, it is objectively a failing gym.
And the accreditors realized this. So in 2009, aligning with these international benchmarks, the NBA completely flipped the script.
What did they do?
They moved to outcomes-based accreditation. So instead of looking at the inputs, they focus entirely on the knowledge, the skills, attitudes, and behaviors of the students at the end of the program.
But how do you actually measure an outcome in a standardized way? Like, it's easy to audit a financial spreadsheet to see how much a lab costs. It seems incredibly subjective to measure a student's, attitude or behavior.
It does sound subjective, but it just requires a much more sophisticated evaluation matrix. You aren't just looking at GPAs anymore.
Right.
Peer reviewers look at capstone projects to see if students can actually solve complex, open-ended industry problems. They look at job placement rates.
Oh, that makes sense.
And they conduct extensive surveys with the employers who hire these graduates to ask, hey, are these students actually prepared for the demands of the modern workforce?
So they talk to the people hiring them.
Yes. Outcome-based accreditation forces an institution to prove its conversion process. Like, how effectively do you take a novice and convert them into a competent professional?
Because a massive endowment means absolutely nothing if your graduates can't pass industry standard tests.
Precisely.
Now, this outcome-based philosophy is clearly becoming the global standard, but the actual enforcement mechanisms, like the leverage these accreditors have, that varies wildly depending on where you are in the world.
Oh, it really does.
Let's look at the United States through the lens of CHEA. We established that this is a voluntary, non-governmental process. The U.S. Department of Education does not evaluate academic curricula.
They don't. And that's for a very specific historical reason. The preservation of academic freedom.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a deep-seated belief in the U.S. that the federal government should not dictate what is taught in university classrooms, because that would open the door to extreme political interference.
Sure, that makes sense.
So the government outsourced the quality control to these independent peer review bodies.
But the government still holds the purse strings, right? They operate on a system of basically accrediting the accreditor.
Exactly.
The Department of Education officially recognizes these independent agencies, and that recognition is the ultimate gatekeeper for Title IV federal student financial aid.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the government says, look, we won't tell you what to teach, but we also aren't going to give taxpayer-funded student loans to a school that is peddling junk.
Right. They want a return on investment.
So they rely on the accreditors. If an accreditor loses their government recognition, the schools they oversee lose access to federal student loans. And without that Title IV money, the vast majority of universities would immediately go bankrupt.
So it's voluntary in name only. It's kind of an ingenious workaround. You don't have to participate, but if you don't, you lose the financial lifeblood of your entire institution.
Really much.
But then you look at a system like PAASCU in the Philippines, the Philippine Accrediting Association of Schools, Colleges, and Universities. Their approach feels fundamentally different because they don't have that massive federal funding leverage. They are deeply rooted in genuine self-regulation.
Yeah, PASU is a fascinating model because it operates almost entirely on a prestige economy. In the Philippines, the government, through the Department of Education or the Commission on Higher Education, they establish the baseline requirements for a school to operate legally.
Okay, so if a school just meets the government baseline, they can grant degrees. So why would they willingly invite PSU's master chefs into their kitchen for a grueling audit if they don't actually have to?
Well, because achieving PSU accreditation is a public verified certification that your institution's standards significantly exceed the basic prescriptions mandated by the government.
Ah, so it's a flex.
Exactly. It is a powerful signaling mechanism to elite employers and to prospective students. It basically says, we aren't just doing the bare minimum to stay open. We hold ourselves to a much higher internationally competitive standard.
Wow. It's an aggressive pursuit of quality for its own sake, driven by market demand for excellence rather than just government coercion.
Yeah.
And speaking of international competitiveness, this brings us to the global web woven by organizations like ABET and QAHE, because accreditation isn't just a domestic issue anymore. It is the engine that facilitates the transnational mobility of graduates, right?
It really is. I mean, we live in a globalized workforce. If you earn a civil engineering degree in India under the NBA and you want to move to the UK or the US to build bridges, how does an engineering firm in London know your degree is valid?
Right. They don't have the time or resources to audit the curriculum of a university in Mumbai.
No, they don't. So they rely on mutual recognition agreements, which ABET leverages extensively.
Mutual recognition agreements, how do those work?
Well, these agreements are incredibly complex diplomatic achievements. It basically means the accrediting body in country A has exhaustively audited the standards, the site visit procedures, and the outcome metrics of the accrediting body in country B.
Okay.
And if they agree that their standards are functionally equivalent, they sign an agreement. This means a degree accredited by the recognized body in India is treated as legally and professionally equivalent to a degree accredited by ABET in the U.S.
Oh, wow. It is a massive invisible architecture of cross-border trust. If the accreditors trust each other, employers can trust the degree.
Okay.
Because without these mutual recognition agreements, global hiring would just grind to a halt. You'd have to re-educate every immigrant professional from scratch.
And this need for trust is expanding rapidly beyond traditional university borders, too. Like QAHE, the International Association for Quality Assurance in Pre-Tertiary and Higher Education, they cast an incredibly wide net.
Oh, wide.
Well, they don't just accredit universities. They accredit K-12 schools, TVET, which is technical and vocational training, and even edutech companies and learning apps.
Wait, accredit an edutech app? That seems like a massive departure from sending peer reviewers to walk around a brick-and-mortar campus. How do you apply these legacy accreditation frameworks to a piece of software?
It requires a complete evolution of the peer review criteria. I mean, you aren't checking the physical library anymore. You are auditing data security, user privacy, the pedagogical validity of the algorithms, and digital outcome metrics.
That's wild.
Yeah, QAHE's expansion really shows that the accreditation machine is trying to adapt to where learning actually happens today, not just where it happened 50 years ago.
So, what does this all mean for you, the learner? All of this emphasis on the power and necessity of accreditation naturally begs a very practical question.
Sure.
If you are looking at a program, maybe a specialized certification or a coding bootcamp, and it is not explicitly accredited by one of these major bodies, does that automatically mean it is a scam?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But it severely limits the legal and professional utility of that program. You have to clearly distinguish accreditation from its alternatives, which QAHE's documentation outlines really well.
Okay, let's break those down.
Let's look at certification versus accreditation first.
Right, because certification is about verifying an individual's competence. Like you sit for a rigorous exam and you earn a certificate in project management or cloud architecture, and that certificate travels with you.
Exactly. Accreditation evaluates the institution providing the training. Certification evaluates the person who received it.
Ah, okay.
You can absolutely get a valuable industry-recognized certification without ever stepping foot on an accredited campus.
Yeah.
But then you have licensure, which is entirely different.
Licensure is a mandatory legal requirement imposed by a government to practice a specific profession, right? Like, you cannot legally wire a house without an electrician's license, and you definitely cannot practice medicine without a medical license.
And here is where the systems intertwine. The state government doesn't have the bandwidth to run medical schools.
Mm-hmm.
So in almost all jurisdictions, a prerequisite to even sit for the government licensure exam is that you must have graduated from a program that holds specialized programmatic accreditation.
So they outsource it.
Yes, the government outsources the educational quality control to the peer reviewers.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to an unaccredited law school, in most states, you are legally barred from taking the bar exam.
Oh, wow. So your degree is essentially useless for its intended purpose. But we also need to be crystal clear about what accreditation is not, because ABET states this emphatically. Accreditation is not a ranking system.
Right. It is not a magazine list of the top 50 schools.
Right, right. If two civil engineering programs are both ABET accredited, ABET does not rank them. They don't say School A is better than School B. They are simply providing a binary pass-fail verification that both schools meet the rigorous baseline standards required by the engineering profession.
And maintaining that strict baseline is really the only thing protecting the public from the darkest corner of the education market, which is degree mills.
Oh, yeah. CHEA issues heavy warnings about these. A degree mill is a fraudulent entity that simply sells you a diploma for cash. It requires zero academic work, zero outcomes, and zero peer review.
But as consumers learn to look for the word accredited, the scammers evolved.
Of course they did.
Yeah, they created accreditation mills. These are fake, impressive-sounding oversight agencies created solely to provide a rubber stamp of approval to the degree mills. It is a closed loop of fraud.
That is insidious. So they spin up a fake university, and then they spin up the, Global Board of Higher Education Excellence to give themselves a fake gold seal on their own website.
Exactly. It means as a learner or as a hiring manager, you can't just blindly trust the word accredited.
You have to trace it back up the chain.
Yes, you have to verify that the accrediting agency itself is recognized by a legitimate authority, like CHEA or
Right.
the relevant government ministry. This raises an important question, right? You have to watch the watchman.
Always.
Accreditation is ultimately about ethical practice and consumer protection. It ensures that when a student spends 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars, they are receiving an education that actually holds weight in the real world.
And it ensures that when you drive over a bridge, the engineer who designed it actually understands load-bearing physics.
Exactly.
It is an incredible, invisible machinery of accountability.
Wow.
Thousands of master chefs evaluating each other's kitchens across the globe, constantly refining what it means to be educated.
It's a huge undertaking.
So when you see that accredited badge now, don't picture a bureaucrat's rubber stamp. Picture the grueling 18-month self-studies. Picture the fierce debates over institutional versus programmatic standards. And picture the massive philosophical shift toward proving actual outcome-based student capabilities.
It really is the bedrock of global knowledge transfer.
We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive brought to you by Research Union Insights. If you want to explore more synthesized research and analysis on how global systems actually function, we highly encourage you to visit researchunion.org.
But as we close, I want to leave you with one final tension to consider. We spent today detailing the extreme rigor of this system. These peer review cycles are deeply methodical, taking anywhere from 5 to 10 years to complete a full renewal cycle. But you exist in a world that is moving at light speed. We are seeing an explosion of fast-paced micro-credentials, 6-week intensive boot camps, and AI-driven educational models that evolve their curricula daily based on machine learning.
Right. The traditional system takes 2 years just to verify a curriculum that an AI could rewrite in 2 seconds.
Exactly. So the ultimate question for the future of education is this. How will these traditional, slow-moving, intensely deliberative peer review institutions adapt to keep up with the blistering pace of modern technology? And can they accelerate their processes without sacrificing the very rigor that makes their accreditation valuable in the first place?
Can the watchman keep up with the clock? Definitely something for you to mull over. Until next time.